Welcome to Portrait Magic 2 Actions for Photoshop. This action set was designed to perform skin smoothing while still retaining natural skin features, such as the texture of the skin, freckles, moles, and other natural features that you may not want to smooth away. Now, we've carefully crafted this action to work with different types of poses and skin types to perform the most natural skin smoothing effect possible in a single click. So we start by opening up the Actions panel and going to Portrait Magic 2, the action set here, and toggling that open. And you'll see here we have a number of different options inside this action set. So this first section here is all about the skin smoothing, and we've created a few different options depending on the type of shot that you're working with. So we have skin smoothing for a full body model shot, a half body model shot, headshots for males, and headshots for females. And we've separated these two because naturally, men and women do have different facial features, such as facial hair, that we need to deal with differently when skin smoothing. We have a second section here, which allows us to add contrast to the image and also some tone controls for the image. The third section here can add some dramatic type of skin glow effects, and these are popular with some wedding photographers and also in the fashion industry as well. And then this last section here has some special effects that we'll dive into towards the end here. So let's have a look here. We're going to work with this image of a model, and it is pretty close to a half body shot, but we're actually going to use the headshot smoothing action for this particular case here. Now, I've selected this model in particular because I will zoom in here and show you she has some facial features that we may wish to keep intact. So you can see her skin tone is actually pretty naturally beautiful, and we do have some freckles here, which are gorgeous, and we're probably going to want to keep those instead of smoothing them away. So what we do is we select the headshot female action and click play, and the action will run in one click. And depending on the speed of your computer, this may take a few minutes to complete. So that is finished. Now we're going to zoom back in here to 50%, just to get a better look at what's going on. And we can close the Actions panel out of the way for now. And now we have some different layers here in the layers palette that we can play with. We have a skin detail layer, which is actually the sharpness of the skin texture. We have a smoothness layer, which controls the amount of smoothness of the skin. And the background layer is the original image. So first, I'm just going to toggle on and off the other layers so you can see the effect that this has on the overall image. So by holding down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC and clicking on the visibility icon of the background layer, we can see the effect of the skin smoothing. And what this action is designed to do is to remove any patchy tones in the skin while still keeping texture in the skin. So we're going to turn on all the layers, and we'll start with the skin detail layer. So now by default, the opacity is set to 100%, and if we want to crank up the sharpness of the skin detail, we can do that by increasing the opacity to anything you like. Now, we may want to zoom in here to 100%. Let's do that, just so you can see how this affects the image more clearly. So that's at 100% skin sharpness, texture sharpness, and we can reduce that down to what we like. So we set the default at 50%, which does a good job in most cases. So we'll leave that as 50%. Now, if you would like to, you can even double click on the high pass smart filter here, which will open up the high pass dialog box. And you can make adjustments to how we're sharpening the skin. So the radius will affect the different size of the sharpening that we're applying to the image. So if you're working with a very close-up shot, you might want to have a larger radius than if you're working with a far back shot. So adjusting this radius, you'll see it has an effect on how we're sharpening the skin. And too high is not going to look very good at all, as you can see here. And too low won't have much of an effect. So you want to find something in the sweet spot of about between 1 to 2 pixels, depending on your image here. So we'll keep it at 1.5 for this image and click OK. And again, we can reduce the effect or increase the effect by changing the opacity of this layer. So next we have the actual smoothness layer of the skin. And again, we set the default opacity down from 100, so it's at 70%. And you can increase this if you like, or decrease it to bring back some of those natural skin features. So if we decrease it down to like 35% here, we can see that we still have the freckles, which are great because we may not want to smooth those away. Now, if you're working in a situation where you do need to smooth them away, whether it's for commercial work or if the model has requested that, you can crank that up to 100%. And it reduces the amount of the freckles considerably. And we can even change that more by double-clicking on the surface blur smart filter here. And the dialog box will pop up. And now we can make some changes to how we're blurring the skin itself. Now, this isn't actually blurring away any of the texture of the skin. This is just blurring away the colors of the skin. So the patchy colors or any blemish colors as well. So by increasing the radius, you're adding more blur, and by decreasing the radius, you're removing blur. So you can play around with these settings. This is the default setting we've selected to work with headshots, and again, you can make adjustments as necessary. So we'll click cancel to close that. And there we have it. So you can again adjust the sharpness by changing the detail layer here, the opacity or the high pass smart filter, and again adjusting the smoothness layer visibility through the opacity or the surface blur amount by double clicking on that smart filter. Now, I did mention that we have some other options available in this action set by adding contrast or tone control or some dramatic glow. So let's take a look at those. Now we're going to zoom back out here to 25% so we can see the full image. And what we'll do is we'll click on the add contrast, click play, and that just gives us a contrast effect here. And we can turn that on and off by adjusting the visibility toggle. We can change the opacity if we just want to reduce it a little bit. And if you want to make custom changes to the amount of contrast, you can just double click on the little adjustment layer icon here. And then you can make changes to this curve if you would like. So we can bring up the darks a little bit there, bring up the highlights even, and change it however you like. And we'll close that there. And similarly, we can open up the actions panel again, click on tone control, and we'll play on that action. And this gives us a color tone option that we have here. And this is similar to like a camera color filter that you might put over the lens. So double click on the color swatch here to change that tone control. If you want a subtle amount of warmth there, or maybe you would even like to cool the image by changing it to a blue color there. So you can experiment to see what works best with your particular image if you want to add a different tone overlay to that image. So we'll click OK. That looks pretty good actually. Now we can open up the actions panel again here, and we'll see we have different amounts of dramatic glow. Now this is a popular effect in the fashion industry especially, and also for some wedding photographers like to have this dreamy sort of skin glow applied to the model that you're working with. So we have different amounts of glow, and these are just light, medium, and heavy. You would only select whichever one you want to use. So let's just go with a light glow on this model. Click that action and click play. And we'll just close up this dialog box. It's just telling us that we can reduce the opacity to suit our image. Okay, so we wind up with this glow light layer right here, and it's set to 55% opacity. And again, if we increase the opacity, we increase the amount of glow, as you can see. If we decrease the opacity, we remove that from the skin. So you have these different glow levels depending on how you want to affect the overall look of the image. I actually like that at 100%, so I'm going to leave that right there. That's kind of a cool look. Okay, and in this last section here, we do have some special effects if those are desired for your image. So we have this small sparkles that we can add to the image. So we'll click that action and click play. And now we come up with this dialog box here. We don't see any sparkles yet. That's telling us because we need to brush them in by brushing over the layer mask. So let's click stop. And if the layer mask isn't already selected, which we have done by default, you can just click on that to make it active. You don't want to click on the thumbnail of the layer itself like this here. You want to make sure the mask is selected with these little corners that are highlighted around the mask. And what you can do is select a brush and make sure it is a white brush down here. And we're using a soft brush at 250. We can increase the brush size by clicking on the square bracket keys or decrease the brush size depending what we want. And when we paint with white on this layer mask, it's going to reveal some sparkle effect. Let's have a look. So there we go. We can add these little sort of glitter effect here. Move the actions panel out of the way. And if I zoom in to 100%, you'll see what we're really adding. Let's go up here. We have these little tiny sort of sparkly glitter effect that we can add to the image. And let's just zoom back out to 25% again. And let's look at the next special effect we have, which are big sparkles. So similar to the small sparkles, we'll do that one. Click play to run it. Okay, and we have the same dialog box appearing here, so we'll close that. And once again, making sure our layer mask is highlighted, we'll click that, and we can start painting. We'll increase the brush size here and move the actions panel out of the way. And we'll start painting some sort of bigger sparkles here that we can add a different sort of effect to the image here. And once again, if I zoom in to 100%, you can see what we're adding here, these sort of little starburst sparkle effects here. So we'll zoom back out to 25% one more time and look at the final option we have in the special effects, which are the bokeh effects group. So let's click on this action here, add bokeh effects. Click on play to run that. Okay, and the dialog box appears here. It says toggle open the bokeh effects group to adjust the opacity and visibility of the small, medium, and large bokeh layers. So we do have 3 levels of bokeh that we can play with here. So you can also paint with a black brush on the layer mask of the entire bokeh effects group, or the layer mask of each individual layer to hide the bokeh from covering important areas of your image, such as the face, of course. So let's click stop to do that. And why don't we do that? We'll close the action panel out of the way. We have a layer mask of the bokeh effects group, so we won't open that just yet. We'll keep that closed. Make sure the layer mask is selected. And this time, because we're hiding instead of revealing, we're going to paint with a black brush to hide the effect. So we'll click on the exchange swatches here. Make sure we're using a black foreground color on the brush. And as I paint over her face on the layer mask, you'll see that hides the bokeh effect over the face, which is much better. Okay. Now we can toggle this group open as mentioned, so we'll do that. And we have 3 different levels. We have bokeh large, bokeh medium, and bokeh small. And if I toggle on and off the visibility, you can see where the large bokeh is there, the medium, and the small. And again, all of these are adjustable. We can paint on the masks of these to hide them in certain areas, or we can click on, for example, bokeh small. I feel that's a little bit too strong, so we can click on the bokeh small layer to make it active and reduce the opacity. I still like it, but maybe I like it better at 10%. And there we go. We have some special effects. We have the skin smoothing. We have the dramatic glow. And we've changed the look of our image dramatically. So what I can do is go back to that background layer, holding down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, toggling the visibility, and we'll see the before-after transformation of this image. And that is Portrait Magic 2. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this action. Again, you can create some wonderful effects on portraits, so have a good time with this one. Thanks again, and enjoy. On behalf of myself and everyone here at Photography BB, thank you for checking out our brand new Artistry 2 Actions for Photoshop. We hope you have hours of fun creating stunning works of art with these, and I personally look forward to seeing everything you create using these actions.